The Spring-Summer 2026 shows have something in common. They show fashion that is relaxed and free-flowing, like a weeping willow tree, and with natural motifs such as florals. Florals for spring? Groundbreaking. We can say that we're going back to 2016 all we like, but realistically, we're going back to 1976. And good, that era knew what they were doing. The Boho Chic revival is one of the subsections of the current messy chic look. If you want the details, check out my video on the rise of the messy but clean girl. In the mid-2020s, it's crazy to say that, the dominant aesthetics are the 360 party girl and the office siren, both relatively new concepts. But fashion is cyclical, and boho always finds its way back. The recent sneak peek images from the upcoming Beatles biopics that we know will be a mess but we'll see anyways just dropped. So stylishly disheveled rockstar chic is only going to rise further. Just look at the red carpet looks. Where did this aesthetic come from? And why does it keep disappearing only to return again? We're going to look into the background of boho chic, how it ties to socio-political shifts, and why it's trending today. So now, let's get started. The term bohemian emerged in the 15th century from the French term la bohème to describe Romani people, based on the mistaken belief that they originated in the Bohemia region. In 19th century Paris, bohemian became a subculture, describing a way of life that rejected conventional expectations and became associated with artists, writers, and musicians. If you've ever met an artist, writer, or musician, then you'll know that they're far from being conventional. Creative minds proudly rejected bourgeoisie materialism, embracing the romantic hedonism of the starving artist. Their art and writing focused on realism, instead of the more approved historical or mythological subjects. In between creating art, they also thrived on drinking, partying, and free love. American Bohemia took shape at Pfaff's, a bar tucked underneath a Manhattan sidewalk. It became a gathering space for intellectuals, most notably Walt Whitman, to socialize and find inspiration. Mark Twain reportedly showed up at least once, and even he considered himself a bohemian. Gellert Borges, known for his scrappy, nonsense verses, described bohemians as messy, late, self-indulgent, but also generous, loving, and creative. In his words, "There are no roads in all Bohemia. One must choose and find one's own path, be one's own self, live one's own life." The pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was also very bohemian. They rejected the stiff, formulaic style pushed by the Royal Academy and instead painted with sincerity, inspired by nostalgia for the medieval and Renaissance periods. That point of time was seen as more romantic and natural than the age of industrialization. It may look like the bohemian world was a boys' club, because it was, but that's not the whole story. Jane Morris is credited for being an early bohemian figure, and was directly involved in the pre-Raphaelite movement. She was raised in the working class and made her way through Victorian creative circles, and became the visual blueprint for pre-Raphaelite beauty. But her influence went beyond her face. Instead of corsets and delicate conformity, Morris wore loose-fitting, flowing gowns, and carried herself with a quiet, aloof confidence that felt radically anti-Victorian. In the 1910s, Amy Crocker was hailed as the Queen of Bohemia after walking away from her old money, trust fund lifestyle. She sailed the world, kept pet snakes, became the first English-speaking woman to spend time in a harem, and hung around the era's most famous artists. Oh, and she got matching tattoos with her boyfriend. They were trailblazers. The bohemian lifestyle kept evolving. Hipsters of the 1940s reveled in jazz music and a signature detached vibe. They innovated the word cool to describe something trendy and admirable. The 1950s beatniks were anti-conformity creatives who loved coffee, poetry, and wearing black. Pop culture quickly turned them into a caricature, but they never became the defining symbol of a generation. That role belonged to what would come next. Jack Kerouac's novel, On the Road, focused on the quest of spiritual enlightenment, and Allen Ginsberg's advocacy of Eastern spirituality and psychedelics trailblazed the ideas and attitudes that would soon become the hippie movement. As baby boomers came of age, their sheer numbers shifted the balance of culture to the youth of America. A growing number of people were getting tired of 1950s conformity, and opposition to systematic injustice and the Vietnam War grew louder. A lifestyle centered on spirituality, nature, free love, and communal living felt like an exciting, non-stop adventure. By the late 60s, as thousands of people hitchhiked across the country to attend music festivals like the Summer of Love and Woodstock, the counterculture became impossible to ignore. While most people didn't live the hippie lifestyle, the movement still had a major influence on popular trends. After the psychedelic look was picked up by rock stars, by the late 60s and early 70s, boho fashion reached the mainstream, and this era is what we'd keep going back to whenever boho style returns. This relaxed, earthy look was everything mid-20th century consumerism culture wasn't. Bohemian fashion prioritized natural beauty, loose-fitting, flowing silhouettes, vibrant colors, and intentionally didn't look super polished or glamorous. In contrast to a reality of protests and political division, the style was soft and ethereal. A January 1970 Vogue article explains this look as anything that makes you dream a little bit about yourself. And remember that fashion doesn't exist in a vacuum. The 70s was the first wave of modern environmentalism. Earth Day started in 1970, and landmark laws like the Clean Air and Clean Water Acts were implemented. This rise of environmental awareness made bohemian ideas not only trendy, but ethical. Many boho pieces were thrifted, handcrafted, or at least aimed to look like they were handcrafted. Crochet, embroidery, peasant blouses, layers of anything, though layered jewelry was preferred, fringe, flower crowns, which represented peace, all became must-have fashion pieces. A major part of the aesthetic came from borrowing visual cues from cultures that was romanticized as more spiritually tuned and closer to nature, including Native American traditions, North Africa, South Asia, and Eastern Europe. It's interesting that a style based on anti-materialism became so heavily commoditized. Even high fashion went boho. The style was Yves Saint Laurent's signature look in the 70s. And if you're one of many with a Fleetwood Mac obsession, then you may recognize that Stevie Nicks embodied this aesthetic. She was mystical, witchy, and otherworldly. You never saw her looking stiff. As boho chic faded for the glossy Studio 54 look, fashion did what it always does. Waited a decade and circled back. By the early 90s, fashion began rejecting 80s maximalism in favor of a simpler, naturalistic look. This was the Save the Rainforest era, even if some of those initiatives were scams. Environmentalism was so popular that it became a trend in animated films, only to be immediately turned into cheaply made plastic merchandise. In the cynical, eye-rolling world of Gen X, hippie culture made a comeback. The 90s hippies were less about peace and love, but were a more new age, hedonistic slacker situation. A lot of people who were teenagers in the 90s even say there were more hippie-ish kids at their school than grunge kids. If anyone ruled 90s boho chic, it was Lenny Kravitz and Lisa Bonet. You know those couples who looked so aesthetically perfect together, like they were designed in the same mood board, but then they broke up? That was them. Lenny Kravitz revived psychedelic sound and aesthetics in the 90s, helping shift rock back towards sensuality, excess, and retro experimentation. As far as we know, journalist Laura Damasi first coined the term boho chic in her October 2002 piece, The Boho Bandwagon, to describe the style of Kate Moss and Jay Jagger. While Erykah Badu was known for her boho style, actress Sienna Miller was credited for bringing back the bohemian look after her appearance at the 2004 Glastonbury Festival. Her oversized aviator glasses, flowy tunic silhouette, and detailed belt had an artsy, effortless feel, something you'll find at a flea market instead of a mall. Coincidentally, boutiques across London specialized in floaty skirts, embroidered tunics, baggy cardigans, and hobo bags. Girls who dress in the style were even called Siennas. Boho chic cemented its place in fashion in various Spring-Summer 2005 collections, such as Roberto Cavalli, Blue Marine, and Anna Sui, all featuring layered, relaxed, beach-friendly fashion. The Olsen twins were also credited for popularizing boho chic. A 2005 New York Times article called Mary-Kate's style a homeless masquerade, though it was also labeled bobo chic, bourgeoisie meets bohemian. Owner of the Tumblr page, Pop Culture Died in 2009, stated, "I think what made the boho trend so unique is that it was mostly ignited by the it girls themselves, rather than by designers. Sienna, Kate, Misha, and Mary-Kate seemed to inspire rather than be inspired." I could be overanalyzing, but 2000s fashion regularly got criticized at the time for showing too much skin and being too scandalous. With its maxi skirts and layers, boho chic was the opposite. A part of its appeal was how it combined trendy, youthful aesthetics with a style that's considered more acceptable or at least more palatable. While the intention was to give off a chilled-out Southern Californian vibe, the style became ubiquitous to celebrity culture, as well as the concept of rich people appropriating from those less privileged than them. The boho it girl, Sienna Miller, even stated in 2006, "No more boho chic. Those two words make me sick now. I don't ever want to wear anything floaty or coin belty ever again." Boho chic didn't disappear in the 2010s. It moved to Instagram, Tumblr, and most famously, Coachella. This open-air music festival takes place in the middle of the desert, so the clothes you wear better be flowy and relaxed, making this the perfect place to appear as a free-spirited flower child. It also helped that Vanessa Hudgens, dubbed the Queen of Coachella, incorporated all traditional boho elements. From Ralph Lauren to Forever 21, crochet, fringe, and especially flower crowns were everywhere. But this was a very short-lived trend. Coachella soon became the influencer festival, so all the flower crowns got dethroned. In the 2020s, as conversations around fast fashion and overconsumption grew louder, being environmentally conscious is no longer a preference, but preservation. We're no longer in the era where every aesthetic ends in core or girl, and because of that, trends don't feel as disposable. Around 2023, the Penny Lane look, especially the Penny Lane jacket, started getting traction on TikTok. With the rise of the soft girl era, more women seem to embrace the fantasy of being a muse, the way Penny Lane was. Not in a passive way, but in a self-aware one, wanting to be desired, even if you're the one doing the gazing. I'm gonna be just a little bit big-headed. In 2024, I talked about how fashion was pulling heavily from the 60s, and I predicted that the next shift would move towards the 70s. And, well, look what happened. Boho style is having a moment in high fashion, effortlessly elevated, yet completely wearable. Much like in the 2000s, boho appeals because it's easy to style without bearing too much skin. In a world obsessed with whether fashion is too scandalous, boho is perfectly palatable. It's playful without ever feeling boring or stuffy. It's the kind of look that whispers freedom, being free-spirited as a means of office escape, which we need today. We live in a society where hot dogs are horrifically overpriced. We need some whimsy. I think the boho aesthetic differs from the messy girl look, like its tendency of glorifying cigarettes. Boho leans into earthy, grounded vibes, a healthy kind of cool. Especially in the last 20 years, boho chic has become a style that flares up fast and disappears just as quickly. It was everywhere in 2006 and gone by 2008. Which is ironic, because boho was never meant to be disposable. At its core, it's about craftsmanship and sustainability. Like, if you love crochet, I'm serious, try crocheting. Your first piece may not be cute or even wearable, but that's kind of the point. Bohemian style has always been about imperfection, patience, and learning as you go. That's why boho never fully disappears. It fades when it gets over-commercialized and reemerges when people are tired of fast fashion and rigid aesthetics. In an ecosystem built on overconsumption and constant reinvention, boho chic survives by slowing down and taking a walk in a flower field. And that's all I have for the rise, fall, and rise of boho chic. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye!